Promotions, and we have special guest
Danielle Radford. Hi.
Hi! So thank you all so much for joining today. So it's a little special occasion because we weren't able to spend our time with Chris on her birthday. So it's time for some champagne to celebrate
Nice.
a week
Happy
later.
birthday.
It's her birthday! Happy birthday!
Thank you, guys.
Yay. Bubbly is always good. All right, so I'm going to share this around on Facebook. And Danielle, why don't you get started?
Sure. Okay, so the reason why we brought Danielle on board, because if you guys watched our video from last weekend, we did it with Christian Gossett. We talked a little bit about Con Life, which is a new project that we're all involved in that we would just like to tell you guys about. So this is essentially part 2. So we introduced you to Chris last week. This week we're introducing you to Danielle.
Yay!
And she's going to talk a little bit about her experiences with Con Life because she's kind of a newbie.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. Whereas like Chris and I were like old farts like in the last one. Now it's like fresh.
Yeah, actually, well, tell us a little bit about like how we know
Yes.
you and where
Exactly.
everybody kind of knows you from and how we'll see you.
So most people know me from all the internet. If it's a movie nerdy talky thing, you've probably seen me on there.
Talking thing.
Movie nerdy talky thing. So you know me from Screen Junkies. I have worked with Hyper RPG, Geek and Sundry. I've done projects with Nerdist. You have probably, if you like wrestling, you've heard my podcast Tights and Fights, or if you like weird other podcasts, I did some voices and some writing on a sci-fi series called Bubble, which I love. It's like Portlandia meets Buffy. It makes me very happy.
Oh, wow.
It's the kind of thing where it's like I wish I came
I'm
up with
into
it, but
that.
I'm glad I got to write for it. So that was really fun. So those are some of the things you would know me from.
Yeah.
All right.
And so we met. I was doing work for a lot of work for Skybound. That's somewhere else you would know me from. I was doing a lot of work for Skybound and Gamma Ray at San Diego Comic-Con, and it was the end of like the end of that Sunday. Everything's winding down. I had just finished, I think, like packing, and I was like, I'm gonna go downstairs to the bar and I'm gonna grab a drink and just kind of like breathe because it was such a big weekend for me. And I get down there, and then we've kind of been crossing paths all weekend because we've all been doing stuff for Skybound. And so they see me, and they're also with Christian, and we all just like start talking. They're like, "Come over to our table. We're talking. We're drinking. Christian's eating weird fish, and and we just start talking about our experiences with conventions and living convention life because everyone kind of knew this was my first. It was my first San Diego Comic-Con, my first like really big convention, and my first time working such a big convention. And it was a huge deal for me. I cried a lot that weekend. We'll get into it. And so yeah, we all just started talking about our own experiences. At one point, we were like, "Let's go for a walk," and we walked. The hotel was along this gorgeous pier, so we were walking up and down the pier.
We had some drinks.
Yeah, we had some drinks. It was fun. We were telling really fun stories and ideas happened.
Ideas, which is usually what happens after you've had a really great con experience and you just start talking and drinking and things happen. All of a sudden ideas are born, which by the way is more frequent than one would think at conventions, of ideas being born, which is something, Chris and I talked a little bit about too, because sometimes you're at a party and pros who have never met each other before meet. Right. And then they start talking and like, we should work on something together. And then things are drawn on napkins are saved, and then suddenly there's a deal with a publisher, and oh my gosh, so this is how things happen, which is kind of amazing.
Which is funny because in kind of LA comedy stuff, it'll be that thing where everyone will say that and then no one follows up. I can't tell you how many times I've been invited to be a part of a Bachelor podcast that never happened.
Really?
Stand-up comedians.
So this is different.
Yeah, this is different. That's why I like working with people who actually work on things.
Yeah,
because things get worked on.
Yeah, we were pretty aggressive. Like pretty much a week after that was our first meeting. Like sit down, like we're gonna nail this and knock it out. Like now this is happening.
It's kind of a good idea, as I feel like people are kind of catching on to, because I feel like as we have been discussing this, things have been popping up all over of people sharing memories of their con life and things that have happened at cons back in the 90s. And like, just these stories are fascinating. And we all want to hear them, how people got their start, how they were just a fan going, showing their portfolio, and now suddenly they're one of the hottest writers.
And then like, we're all looking through all of our databases to try to find like those pictures. Like I'm still trying to find my first convention because I know I took pictures. And I'll never forget when the friend that brought me cock blocked me from Ray Park, and I was so mad. I was so mad, guys. I was like, get away from me. We are not friends anymore.
Yep, that was
Over.
Do not keep someone from Darth Maul. That's
Right?
just not what are you
Right?
doing.
So we've got Dragon Ball Blaster
Oh.
on YouTube saying hello.
Oh, hey.
Hey.
So, hello. What up?
Hello,
Yes.
Dragon Ball Bastard.
Yes, thank you for joining. We're talking all about our favorite conventions. Where actually my second convention ever was the first ever New York Comic-Con or New York Anime Convention,
Ooh.
which I think my sake set is actually from that convention. So, you know, well,
And also, weirdly enough, okay, so Rudan is going back to New York Comic Con next weekend
yes,
for the first time in 8 years. Whereas a lot of pictures that are being posted on, by the way, our social media for Con Life. This
Yes.
is Con
This
Life.
is Con Life.
It's on Twitter, it's on Instagram, it's on Facebook. Anywhere else? No.
I think that's
Instagram.
good.
Okay, yeah.
Instagram. Anyway, so 2008 is where a lot of my New York Comic Con pictures were taken. And so I feel like that's
Oh,
the last
weird.
time I went as well, was 2008, and we were both there but did not know each other.
Didn't know each other.
Nope.
No, but we did meet at San Diego Comic Con 2009 or 10.
I don't know if it was 9 or 10. It might have
Yeah.
been
I think it's 10 because it's been 8
Must have
years
been
we've known
10.
each other, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, anyway, glad everyone could be a part of that revelation. Anywho, so let's get back to talking about Con Life and what it is we're doing, which is essentially, without getting into too much detail because there's so many amazing things coming, is we want to hear stories that people have from going to cons. Like amazing stories, not just like boring stories, but like really good ones.
Well, and I feel like a lot of us nerds have those because you
Yes.
get to finally meet those people that
Yeah.
you've been so close or like feel like you're so close with because you've been reading their books, you've been looking at their artwork or whatever.
Absolutely. And by the way, like there's a lot of stories from pros of meeting other pros that they were fans of before they were pros. And so it's kind of weird because when you finally break into the industry, if you're trying, although, you know, you can be just a fan, that's fine too, you know, obviously. But when you're trying to break in and you finally do it, there's a whole group of people that you break in with that you remain friends with even if you don't talk to each other for years. Like it's really strange. Like it's like you come up with these people, and a lot of pros have their little cliques of like, this is us in the 90s and this is us like in the early 2000s and this is us like, yeah. And it's crazy because I have that, like I know exactly who I broke in with, and everybody every now and then still reconnects on Facebook and everybody knows who you are, and like, and they all just check in, and it's kind of great. Even,
Yeah, it's like your graduating class.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like your graduating class. That's
Yes.
a perfect example.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of great, and it's very inclusive.
Yeah,
So.
we're super stoked. And
Yeah.
as the story was told last week with Christian Gossett, is that we had kind of every flavor of Con Life with our small group because that was her first San Diego Con ever. It was my like 10th-ish. And like for you guys,
it was
it's
like 13, and mine was like 13 or 14. I think
Yeah.
I skipped a year in there somewhere, but
But and like only recently have I even been considered a professional. Like for me, it was like fan. You know, and I just happened to have professional friends who would get me tickets. You know, that was basically it. So it was great having kind of a mixed bag with all of us and all the different flavors of, you know, professional nerds.
so now I want to hear about Danielle's experiences where she was crying.
So much. So I've been reading comics since I was like 11, and San Diego Comic-Con has, like, even back then it was the con to go to. And so I grew up on military bases. We moved around. Not a lot of comic book conventions happening at your local military base. I'm not sure if you guys knew this. But so then when I remember the first Emerald City Comic Con happened, and by this time I was settled into the Seattle area. I was so excited. I remember the first one. It was small, but it was still like,
Right.
I'm at a comic book convention. Oh my God. And so I went to a few of those, and I've been to other horror cons and things in Seattle. But
What year was that? Your first Emerald City?
oh gosh, I want to say the first Emerald City was probably, if I had to hazard a guess, 2001, 2002,
Oh,
somewhere
okay.
around there.
Yeah, pretty much. That was like one of the first years then.
Yeah, it must
right?
have been
'Cause
because
it's
I
been
think
around-
it was
I went
the
to
first
Emerald
year.
City,
Yeah. I went to Emerald City, but I feel like it might have been 2007 or 8, so it was way after
Yeah, this was
that.
way
Yeah.
before it was at the convention
Yeah,
center. This is
okay.
when it was in just like a little hall, like an
Right.
exhibition center over by the stadiums.
Yeah. Well, that's how it was when I went too. So I feel like they just exploded in the last like 5 years.
Yeah, it's huge
Yeah.
now, and
Oh, it's
I
enormous.
I credit part of that to PAX, and you know, there's also
sure.
SakuraCon. Just the idea
Well,
that
didn't
people
they,
know
like,
that now this
it
is a place
was-
you can go to do
yeah.
conventions.
I think also the guy who was running it sold it.
Yeah.
You know, because he also used to work for Image as their publicity manager. So he did that, and then he worked for Image, and then he went back to that. But I think he sold it off to Repop. They run
Yeah,
it, I think right
so.
now.
Yeah, they run it
and
right
that's
now.
when like it exploded because it's
Yeah,
Repop.
it's Repop.
Yeah, because they know.
So yeah.
Also, while we're talking about this, everybody comment with your first convention and where and when
Yes.
it was.
Yes,
you can remember
please.
it. Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
And so then because I'm not a responsible human being, I went from being like a paralegal to saying I'm going to start doing stand up and doing all of this writing, and so I didn't have any money, and then I moved here and it got even worse because you really don't have money in LA.
But also, by
No.
the way, if you work in comics, you don't have money.
you don't have money either. You
Ever.
Ain't no money. Ain't no money there.
Ain't no money. Ain't no money. Oh, we're happy and poor. So,
But we're fulfilled.
yay, fulfillment. Oh, my poor mom.
Let me
I'm like,
just fill my glass some more.
Yeah.
That's how I'm gonna get my fulfillment.
every time I tell my mom, I'm like, you better be happy my sister's got a good job, because,
Yeah, oh my god, your tweet, was it this morning about like the new job you got? And you're like, and my mom won't know what that means.
she has
at
no
all.
idea what it
Yeah,
means.
tell them about the job that you just locked down in the tweet that you gave. It was great.
Yeah, so I am now officially a Rotten Tomatoes officially recognized reviewer. So when I do reviews now, they'll be on there, and that does also mean that since I'm recognized, I might get opportunities to contribute with them in the future, I believe. And so I was like, yeah, this is really cool, and my mom has no idea what this means.
Yeah.
It's like trying to explain my job to my grandma. I tried one time, and she didn't understand that professional Superman talker is a job now. And I'm trying to explain it to her, but she's like, I grew up in post-war Germany. I don't know do you shovel?
Well, it's kind of funny because remember when we were talking about Hawkins in Vegas and he did not know what the term influencer meant?
Oh my god, that was so
is that
good.
what they called him now?
It's like, what
He was
is
like,
that?
what are you talking about, an influencer? We're like,
The influencers,
influencers like
yeah,
on
like,
YouTube?
and he's like, "There's another word." I'm like, "Is there?" And he finally came
This
up
is
with
it.
some really old man
Yes.
term, and I do not remember what it was, but it was
hilarious,
just
guys. And it was
Star
total-
Talker or something
Yeah, it was
really
total-
Oh, that's funny.
1950s
by the way.
sounding thing.
It was a perfect conversation in
Yeah.
all ways.
Here you hear the professional star talker says teeth can be whiter.
Yeah. I'll never forget the first time that I went home for Thanksgiving, and it was like when I was doing conventions professionally, and they're like, "So what do you do?" I was like, "Well, conventions that are for comic book and nerd culture."
By the way, I was asked that very question when I went back to Chicago.
Oh, yeah?
When I met up with a friend of mine, and she was like, "So, what do you do now? Like, I can't. What?
And people pay. Like, my
And
favorite
people,
was that people
pay
pay
you?
for that, and
Yeah.
like go to conventions and people pay you for that. Like
Yeah.
it's like
It's a whole ass business.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
pay-
it's a whole ass business.
yeah, people pay a lot of money for these.
yeah. Somehow being a nerd paid off for us. Somehow I had no idea that was
By
gonna
the way, I have
happen.
an epic picture of me as a nerd. It's on my mom's wall. I saw she had a big collage.
Please
and
tell me you took a picture
I
of that
did.
so we can.
I did, but it's on the phone though, so we can't see it. It's not from cons. Though.
No.
It was from earlier. It's from earlier.
We all need to
So-
see that.
Oh,
So
no.
people have been
It's pretty-
commenting.
Pretty nerdy, guys.
John, he says that his first con was Gen Con in 2015 for D&D 5th edition release.
I went to Gen
Little
Con
boy right
back
there.
was when it was in Milwaukee, and it was one of my first conventions was Gen Con. A friend of mine took me there back when it was like just a sci-fi con, sci-fi D&D, and I think I went back when I was in high school. I think I was like so we're talking guys.
Guys,
I was
guys,
in high school in
guys.
the 80s.
Guys.
So I believe it was 89 that I went. Might have been 90. But yeah, Gen Con. That was my very first one.
And then John also says, and I occasionally work with moderately famous people for my job and don't get nervous, but I totally got tongue-tied when I first met Scott Kurtz.
Scott Kurtz!
That's
Player
amazing.
versus player.
That's
I know,
right.
I get
Yeah,
it.
He's amazing.
I get it. We know that. I get that
I
reference.
was at Image when they were publishing all of his stuff. He was a super nice guy, and he even gave me one of those little, the little blue toys. God, of course, the guy, the troll. The troll's name is escaping me at this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But y'all know who I'm talking about. Yes, because I can't think of things when I am live like this.
And champagne.
And champagne.
And champagne.
Chomps. Let's drink some chomps.
Okay, and we have Giorgio Mosley,
Oh, hey, Giorgio.
who's saying, "What's up to Ruth Ann?"
What up? Good to see you, bro.
Yes, she did see it, so
Yes.
we're all good.
Hi.
Nope, we're not looking at just Facebook. We're doing both. It's cool.
Skull is what John said. Is that the
Skull.
name?
Yeah, that's
Skull.
it. That's it.
Thanks,
Yeah.
John.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
thanks, Jen. But yeah, it's so fascinating because like to me, I'll never forget my first time walking into a convention and like I could say things and people knew what I was talking about and I was like, my people, you exist, because like I hadn't really had that much experience on the internet or anything like that.
It's
like,
kind of a surreal experience,
Yeah.
isn't it? Where like you literally are like looking at this artwork like in person. Like before you can see it in your comic and whatever, but then you go there and you see them on display behind people, like they have them on easels or they have them like a painting posted of like your favorite fantasy artist, you know, from D&D, and you're just like,
well, I
like it's right there.
I had kind of a small moment like that when we were in Vegas because I had bought this beautiful art book, and she's not a comic artist. She's just a beautiful artist.
Like a fine illustrator.
Yeah. And she does these beautiful watercolors and all this stuff. And I bought her book years ago. I think it was at the first Long Beach Comic Con ever. And I bought the book, and I was flipping through it, and there's this gorgeous picture that I actually did
for Halloween.
For Halloween
which
one
you'll
year.
see in the picture, the Halloween picture that we took with Mark Wade.
Yes.
That was posted on Con Life.
Yeah, that's how I met him, was in this ridiculous getup. And then I tweeted it and I tagged her, and she like loved it, and she and like while we're walking through and I didn't know that she would go to conventions, and like there she did. She had a booth, and I was like, hi, you don't know me, but I totally did a picture, and like this was the end. And she was like, oh wow, that's great.
She was
that's
like, I remember none of this.
Yeah.
She remembered
well,
none
no,
of
but she said like,
she was
that was
so
such
nice.
Yeah, she was so nice, and she's like, wow, that's a really old painting. I was like, I know, it's from a book that I got like a long time ago. Thank you. And she's like, okay, Chris, let's go. We gotta go.
Yep, I feel you on that. Like, I did that with Olivia. Like, she gave me autographed drumsticks, by the way, that had her illustrations on it. And there's a picture, I think, that I turned over to you about that with Olivia in there. And it was this moment where I think all I did was smile. Like, I don't think I could form a coherent sentence because I had collected all of her photos, her cheesecake pictures, everything else. And I was just like,
I don't do well when I'm surprised by something.
Yeah, no, when I'm ready, it's the same thing with interviews. Because, like, I can go in and I can interview all the live long day, but if I don't know, like, one of the first things when I was getting ready to go to Skybound that first day, I walk into an elevator and, like, there's fucking Rob Liefeld.
oh, yeah.
And or Liefeld? I can never get that right.
Liefeld.
Yeah. I always read things, and I didn't have a lot of friends who read comics,
crazy,
and so, like, I can never pronounce things
I
correctly.
had the same thing with her, because, like, I never got to meet people until, like, we started hanging out, and I only read stuff. Like, and I would, like, say his name, she's like, no. I'm like, no, sorry.
I think we had, didn't we do cards for you? Flashcards?
Oh my god, we legit made flashcards for my first Long Beach Comic Con ever because I was so nervous that I would just be like, hi, like say somebody's name totally wrong because I've read their stuff for so long, but I've never had to say it out loud.
Wasn't it 2 weeks ago that Lawrence was like, I never knew how to pronounce Sienkiewicz's last name.
Yeah.
It's spelled like Sienkowitz or whatever.
Yeah.
It's pronounced Sienkiewicz. But if you notice, he has a banner that spells it phonetically.
He does every
like
show.
Sienkiewiczz. Yeah, it's really funny.
Sal also says, what's up, Sal?
And also, we have Layla saying hello to you, Danielle.
Oh, hey Layla, what's going on? Hey. But yeah, so I walked in and there he was, and I had that moment where I froze and I was like, oh hi, and he was like, hey, how are you? Like he knew he'd been spotted, and I was like, in an elevator with you? That's cool.
Good.
That's pretty cool.
And awkward. It's cool.
And he was so sweet. He looked, because I have this purse with a bunch of pouches on it, and he was like, love the pouches on that purse. And I was like,
and you're like, ah!
And he knows he's giving me a gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, he's giving me a gift.
Precious
or
gift.
a test.
Or a test. And I was like, literally all I could say was, of course you do. And then I just like sat there flopping on my side.
Did you see that he posted something? It was like some fashion like thing where
right now.
It was a woman who basically her entire outfit was pouches. It was just all pouches, and he goes, "Oh look, I have my own fashion line now coming out through Vogue." It was
my
very
gosh, that's
hysterical.
amazing.
He is such a nice dude with such a great sense of humor about himself.
And that's the grand thing too, is being able to meet all these people, and they're actually awesome, like down to earth, cool people. The first time I totally blitzed out on meeting somebody famous it was my first con actually out here, and it was kind of a mistake that I was there for a second day. I was supposed to go to work, but that's another story. And I was hungover, but I wanted to help everybody out at the booth, so I would go up to the green room and grab sodas for people and bring them back down. So I'm walking out, like really focused, holding way too many sodas and waters and stuff, and I legit run right into Seth Green. And like by running, I mean like, he's on here on me, and I just look up, and he's like, "You need a bag," and me and my very charming, witty self went, and ran. Like, that was it. I was like, anything. I should have been like, an evil bag? Anything. But nothing came out of my mouth. I just ran.
Also, every Hollywood man is 3 to 4 inches shorter than you expect him to be.
Legit.
100%.
They are all pocket-sized. Every single one of them.
And usually it's really weird, but the women are taller than you think.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
really strange.
I don't know. It's that weird Hobbit perspective where they make it so that everyone looks taller than all the men look taller than the women.
John says #pouch life.
#pouch life.
What kind of champagne is this, George? Georgia wants to know.
Oh, damned if I can pronounce this.
It is Freixenet.
Look, we are not sponsored, but since it's Chris's birthday, this is the champagne that I got.
It's got way more consonants than I think are supposed to be pronounced. Is the problem? At least 2 of those are not meant to be pronounced, and I don't know.
Yeah, at least 2.
Really tasty.
I feel like
Negro, so it's a darker, I guess, stronger. I don't know what the correct term for that is. Is dry? No.
I only know Corbel.
Guys,
I am trash.
Well, we usually get the Trader Joe's $3 one.
Yeah, that or the Trader Joe's Prosecco, which I do know that is only from the province of Prosecco. There's a little fact for you.
Oh boy, that's what we're devolving into. Guys. Okay, anyway, back to Danielle. Okay, so I still want to hear the story.
That makes you cry. Sorry, we got.
Yeah. Oh no worries.
This always happens.
This is every live show that's ever happened in the world.
Okay, good.
That's good to know. It's every single live show ever. So yeah, I was tapped to do San Diego this year, and this was, last year I went for a party because I was like, I just went through a breakup, and a friend of mine, Iffy Wadway, was like,
Iffy! That's how I actually do know you, was from Iffy and Danny. Because I met you a couple times with that whole group.
Yeah, so Iffy was like, I'm driving back down. I am coming to get you right now. Don't worry about anything. We're at least going to go to a party because you got to stop whatever this is.
Being what you're doing.
Yeah, this thing you're doing on the couch is not working for me as your friend. And so he took me and kidnapped me, and we went down to San Diego, and that was fun. But then I still hadn't had a chance to have the experience. And so this year I got my press pass. My first ever pass for San Diego Comic-Con was
for your first ever San Diego
awesome.
Comic. Yeah, that's crazy. That's amazing.
Yeah, I stared at it for way too long, and put
it's framed.
Yeah, it's it's never leaving my sight, and
we all keep them. It's okay.
And so that first night I got in, and of course you get to that point where it's like you get overwhelmed, and then you get overwhelmed with the work, and so it's like, okay, where am I staying? What am I doing? And I wound up getting lucky enough. Skybound was like, oh, just toast a bunch of stuff on our live, and we'll put you up in a hotel, because some of the work I thought I was going to be getting wound up falling through. And so I was just I found out I was getting all this work, and I was worried that it was going to cost me money, even though I had a press pass, and I wound up making money that weekend, which was mind-blowing. And so when I got in,
first con,
I can't.
That's unheard of.
I'm still processing.
My first San Diego Comic-Con was working for Image.
Well, but you were working, but I guess that makes sense. I don't know, but for me, as even though I got my pass covered and then my hotel, I still blew so much GD money on nerd stuff. It's not it's never been a positive until the last 3 years have I walked out with
I guess that's true.
Positive
with some money. Yeah. I was very afraid that I was gonna blow it all on just Funko Pops. So
legit
worry. I limited myself. I did a really good job. And so I get there that Wednesday night. I drove up with a friend, and I drop my stuff off at the hotel. I go into the hotel bar just to grab some fizzy water and think, and I chill. Oh no, it was this Fox Sports Grill, because they had a happy hour. I was like, I'm gonna get something to eat and something to drink, and then I'm gonna go back to my hotel room. And I just had this moment where I was like, oh, I'm here. And so I wrote this tweet about it, and I didn't think anyone was paying attention because it was 10:30, 11 at night. And I woke up, and it had amongst all of these creators, Gail Simone retweeted it. A bunch of people were retweeting it. And it had gone not super viral on Twitter, but amongst comic booky people and creators and stuff. People were sharing it and tweeting about it, and so after I saw Rob, which was fantastic, and then I start leaving my hotel and to go walk over to my first thing at Skybound, And the first thing that happens is I get stopped by someone from Mary Sue who was like, wait, you had that viral tweet, blah, blah, blah. It was so sweet. I hope you enjoy your first convention. And so that wound up happening where pros would like stop me and be like, thank you. Like, I take this stuff for granted sometimes.
Yeah,
and it's like
absolutely.
not, and reading that reminded me of what it was like when I first started breaking in. And so like, thank you for reminding me not to take this for granted.
It's a reminder all of us need. Like,
Yeah.
for real, who've been doing this for forever. And I mean, I know personally, I was sick to death of San Diego Comic-Con. Sick to death. Like, it's a chore for me to go. And
Right.
it's just, and it becomes, like, everyone's like, oh my God, how can that be? It's like, because it's hard. I get no sleep. And it's like, it's really hard.
Our
like,
feet
I
and
don't,
ankles are all swollen by the
they're
end.
swollen. And it's like,
stressful.
And you can't
it's
move.
all bullshit.
And
it's
everything
like,
is yelling at you everywhere you go.
Yes.
Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me.
and it's just like, it's the
Backpacks
worst.
and
You know?
strollers.
Standing
And
there
those
like for 15
fucking,
hours.
like,
and
what do you call those?
rascals?
Yeah, the Rascals, but also now at San Diego this year, those scooters, those fucking
the
scooters.
The bird scooter thing?
Yes.
Oh God. Anyway,
much rage.
see, so
Speaking
it's
of nerd
very
rage.
easy
Yeah.
to just fall into that trap. And,
Oh, hey
you
Steve.
know.
Good to see you, bro. Been a long time.
Yeah. So I feel like it's a reminder all of us need. Anyway, so I completely get that. You know,
Well,
and
and
it's
a lot
very
of
hard,
those-
like, not to roll your eyes, by the way, when someone's like, yay, because she does it every year. She's so excited. I'm just like, just go.
And
I just want to, like,
yeah.
palm her face and shove her
Just
away.
mush
like,
her.
Just, like, go.
She does it on occasion.
Whatever. Just so over this.
Just mushing you right in the face.
Anyway.
And I did have to say, like, look, I'm so sorry to be corny on the timeline, but like, I have to do this. Like, let me
No,
be
that's
corny because I
legit.
had to.
It's
I had to
legit.
preface it because I was
That is
like,
legit.
no, I know how I sound, just like big stars in the eyes.
But it's also what keeps this industry going, you know,
Yeah.
because I feel like a lot of the stories that we are getting from some of the professionals, not all of them are about other professionals. Sometimes it's about this fan that just changed their entire weekend.
Absolutely. Like, and that's something that I really want to get into. Okay, and see, so Giorgio mentioned that he wants to go to San Diego Comic-Con, but he likes the smaller cons better. And there is something to that because you get more
Yeah.
personal
Yeah.
attention to the smaller cons. And that is when you can meet and talk to your pros. And a single fan can change a pro's, like, perspective on everything. Like, I kid you not. Like, that happened so many times to people where, like, creators get into their heads. They're artsy people. The writers, the artists, and everything. They just, it's a lonely job. They're at home. They're doing it by themselves, guys. And yeah, they've got social media, but a lot of the times it feels like you're screaming into a void. Especially
Yeah.
if sales are down and they're not making a lot of money. They have to work a second job. One convention where they go and they have a fan that expresses like, your work changed my life. Like, I
Yeah.
read this and I am such a huge fan. Changes everything, guys. So it's very, very important for like both sides
For
of the
both
fence.
sides,
Yeah,
yeah.
for both sides. Like, it's great.
Yeah, they're not like, you know, actors who are like, ugh, don't talk to me. Like, they're never going to have an attitude. If you go up to someone, obviously be respectful
Yeah.
if they're eating
Yeah.
or with their kids or whatever. But if you see someone walking and you're just like, hey, I love you.
Hey, you're awesome.
Yeah, they're going to carry that with them all
Absolutely.
day.
Yeah.
And
And it's like, honestly, one of those things that happens where if you catch a creator and they're having a bad moment, like, it's probably not you. And a lot of people come away like, oh my God, they were such a jerk to me. They were so rude. It's like,
But you don't know what
You
happened.
probably
Yeah,
caught
right
them
before
at that
there.
one
Yeah.
moment when something, like, give them a
Where,
break.
yeah, where the mask slips.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just give 'em a
It's like
break.
they've been
Little bit of a
holding it
break.
together for so long,
Yeah.
and then
Well-
like that 2 minutes where it's like, I
Yes.
just need a second.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's very overwhelming
Like, a lot of people
sometimes.
forget that a lot of these creators, especially the artists and writers on these comic books, like you were saying, they work in a void. They're very also nerdy people. Very like socialization sometimes can also be difficult. So sometimes if they have just an inundation of so many people, it's hard
It's like a
for them
sensory
as
overload.
well.
Yeah.
And I mean, Chris has often talked about that because there's cons that sometimes like the writers and the artists are a little too nervous about the crowds and kind of even like sit back from the table, and
Yeah.
it's like, I feel like we should create a training program for some of these new up and coming artists and writers and all that kind of stuff that don't like you
Yeah.
have to be able to do both now
That
because
was kind
of
of
just
the
the
idea,
industry.
actually.
You have to,
Behind, like, when we did the Skybound Lounge at Emerald City, was because we really honestly created a space where professionals could get away just for a minute and have some downtime. And because sometimes it becomes so overwhelming. And it's not just like that they don't appreciate it. It's just it's a bombardment of senses and stuff like that. And so they just need to get away for a little bit, recharge their batteries, and go back out.
Yeah, it's hard to remember, but there are days, legit days, because I freelance, so sometimes I'm working at home, and you don't even think about it. There are days where you don't speak out loud to another person. Yeah. You might be texting, you might be on the internet, but you have not physically spoken
your voice.
to another in a couple of days.
It happens to me, and then I get on a phone going, first time I've spoken today, and it's 2 p.m.
Yeah, so, and John wrote a story that is very, I feel like happens more often than not, that he says, I remember being at a professional conference for theater tech and hearing some random sound guys making fun of some comic book attendees who are also in town. I had to remind them that without super fans like that, most of us in the industry wouldn't have jobs, which is totally
Absolutely true.
Because this is the industry that we're a part of is only built on fans.
Yep.
There's no one else. It's only built on fans, which is shocking when you see how the comic book industry is struggling so aggressively when everything that's making crazy money, whether it's video games, movies, TV shows, are all based on these characters and these environments and these stories that these comic book writers wrote, drew, and created. And it's that's why I feel like also Con Life is so important, is because it's really bringing it back to who created this and their experiences in this world of the fandoms and everything else. And they get to see their friends, like you were saying earlier. Their class reunions basically are at Comic-Cons. And it's people
at the bar afterwards, guys.
Yeah. Always find the bar that people are hanging out at. It switches at San Diego. It switches at every con, but then there's like conventions. I remember one of our first conventions we did out in New Jersey. There's this magical thing that happened where it was like one of the shows that felt like an old school convention. Because there was only one hotel that everybody was staying at. So guess what? I walked in, and who was it? Was Chris Claremont.
Chris Claremont was sitting at the bar.
Was it Gail Simone as well? Was there?
Yeah, Gail was there.
Gail was there, and one other person, and I just sat. And it was my first time meeting any of them, and I just sat and like Chris is just chatting with them, like, like sipping on my whiskey, like these people created my childhood. It's fine. We're all fine here. Like, hey, cool.
Yeah, that was when we climbed up onto the roof with a bunch of.
That was the second. That was the second night. That was. Oh
Tell
my
you
God.
guys, Con Life.
There, we have some
Con
stories
Life. We got
about
some
that
stories.
con, about what's his face's weed that we ended up smoking.
I'm not gonna say his name out loud.
Yeah, we're just gonna say.
But that was some fun.
Part of Con Life is also protecting other parts of Con Life.
Yeah, that's also
he's forced to secrecy.
We also like talk in code a lot of times, like. So, but I
will
so
tell
great.
that story because it was an amazing story, and
amazing.
I will hide names to protect the innocent.
That was so much fun.
We will tell that. That's a good story to tell,
right?
On our Facebook page, guys. Please follow it.
Follow it. Let's do it. So Danielle, where can we follow you on all the social meets?
I am on, I'm just at Danielle Radford on Twitter. I am Danielle_Radford on Instagram. I have a fan page, which again, just Danielle Radford. I got very lucky in that the only other like Danielle Radford there was this gorgeous like black French model who gave up at like, I know, she took everything. Well, no, so she gave up and so now it's just me. She like, she had like the website for forever and all of these beautiful like her in black and white and these beautiful like vistas, and then at one point she was like, oh, I gotta get a job because modeling pays even less than what we do.
It's sad, but
and
also,
you don't get to eat.
Great.
Yeah,
sorry, that's true.
Yeah.
The worst part.
I'm
ever.
assuming she probably married a prince or however it works.
Yeah, she's probably had a really rough life.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
No longer on
my
social
gosh.
media. No need.
All right, well, guys, thank you again so much. And Eric Davis just joined at the end to say, Con Life, what's up,
Yes.
Eric? Woo-woo.
Con Life. So follow Con Life
Yes.
on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It is This Is Con Life, and please share your stories with us because we want to hear them.
Please do.
Yes.
And Danielle, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Of course.
And so we're going to be pre-recording our next week's episode because I'm going to be at New York Comic Con.
It's going to be too busy.
Yeah, it's going to be great. But love you all. Thank you again so much for joining, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.